Hey everybody, we are about to start Soul Reaver 2, another one of my all-time favorite games ever, especially for its story. Last time we finished the bonus content for Soul Reaver 1, we uncovered some nice little material, the deleted levels, some lore, some extra lore for the game, so now we are moving on to the sequel, so let's get to it.
Kain refused the sacrifice.
Make sure the subtitles are always turned on. Alright, here we go. The second part of Raziel's journey. Let's go. I guarantee you this is an epic story, the likes of which you've never seen if you've never played this game, so let's all experience it together.
At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner. Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never contain such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? As such, are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine eons ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. Free will is an illusion.
I found the tomb of Sarafan, Kain. How could you profane a priest by turning him into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
The Sarafan were saviors, defending Nosgoth from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are open, Kain. I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it. You think the Sarafan were noble, altruistic? Oh, don't be simple. Their agenda was the same as ours. You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
So they trimmed the dialogue from the ending section of the last game. That always bugged me, but it's to be expected. You can expect them to cram 5 minutes worth of dialogue into the intro sequence here. That's also a little mistake. Raziel should not be able to summon the Reaver just like that, unless he shifted into a spectral realm in between those 2 seconds. He did make a nice attempt there to confront Kain, but still came up short.
Raziel, Redeemer and Destroyer, Pawn and Messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny.
There he is, the man himself. Doesn't look like they remastered this cutscene, unlike the original intro from the PS1 game. This one still seems to be intact as it was before.
Where am I? Is the usual question. In your case, when might be more apt.
Very well, you old snake. If you'd prefer I use my bare hands.
Well, this is completely unexpected. This orb disables our vampire enemies, leaving them helpless and incapacitated. Strangely, it seems to have the same effect on that peculiar weapon of yours. But you must believe me. I mean you no harm.
You can drop the benevolent facade, Mobius. I know who and what you are. I should kill you where you stand.
Perhaps you should, my boy. But you don't.
Are you so certain of that, Mobius?
My role as Time Guardian affords me a certain level of omniscience, Raziel. No, you don't kill me. That honor belongs to your maker, Kain, some 30 years from now.
You two are a pair. You're just as fatalistic as he is.
Death comes for us all, Raziel. It's just a matter of time.
How is it that you know my name? We have never met.
On the contrary, Raziel, I know you very well. And it grieves me to see how cruelly Kain has used you. I knew you when you were one of the Sarafan Brotherhood, Raziel. We were even close.
Oh, please.
Fortunately, you need not love me now to be my ally.
Are we within the stronghold of the Sarafan priesthood?
Yes, but the glorious days of the Sarafan have long since passed, I'm afraid. This is a more cynical and indecorous age. My mercenary army now inhabits this stronghold. We strive to honor the memory of the Sarafan with our own humble crusade.
Is this the vampire Vorador?
Yes, the scourge of the circle, the most depraved and decadent example of his whole degenerate race. He slaughtered 6 of my fellow guardians as they cowered defenseless in this room.
And you somehow survived this massacre?
I and 2 others. The circle was devastated. Only we 3 were spared.
How convenient. You'll forgive me if I don't naively devour every scrap of information you toss me. You have a reputation for deceit.
And who has slandered me so? Your malefactor, Kain? The one who betrayed and destroyed you? Our common enemy? Consider the source before you judge me too harshly. We'll forget about rekindling our old friendship then. But consider an alliance based on our common ground. We both want Kain dead. I can help you do it.
You don't want to meddle in this, old man. I know all about your sordid little schemes, but you're simply out of your depth on this one.
You underestimate me, Raziel. Let me show you. Even now, Kain is lying in wait for you, unaware that I've snatched you out of the time stream and brought you here to me. See how he lingers at the very pillars he is destined to destroy, foolishly confident that he has eluded your grasp.
The pillars are still standing in this time.
Yes, Raziel. They are the embodiment of the divine force which preserves the life of our world. We who serve the pillars maintain their delicate balance, and Kain is destined to be the fulcrum upon which that balance turns. I believe you have already endured the wasteland wrought by his terrible, selfish decision. Kain's very existence is a cancer upon this world. As long as he lives, all of Nosgoth is in peril. You may never again be human, Raziel. But you can re-embrace the essence of your humanity and the nobility of your Sarafan heritage. Go to him, Raziel, and end this But first, you will need to find your way out of the stronghold, and in this, I'm afraid I cannot help you. My soldiers will not understand your appearance here. They will try to kill you. You needn't fear them, of course. They're no match for you. Try to keep the casualties to a minimum. But do what you have to do. All great movements require a few martyrs.
Alone now, I surveyed my surroundings and noticed a second time-streaming chamber. Its entrance identical to the first, but with one distinction. That crystal was significant, but how? I had not yet discovered.
Alright, here we go. I like how Raziel asked how it's possible that he knows his name. It's like, he just told you, Raziel, he's basically omniscient because he's the Time Guardian. He knows everything. That's how he knows your name. I do like the little acknowledgement there when Raziel tells him he should kill him where he stands, and Mobius tells him perhaps you should. Yeah, you should kill him, Raziel, but you don't. So these Guardians are the ones that you saw in the beginning of Blood Omen. They get killed in the intro when we don't understand quite what's happening yet. And also we see them killed again in the story that Vordel tells Kain when Kain visits him at his mansion. The story meant to impress him with his past, where you see him kill all 6 of them. We didn't really see all of them. I don't remember this lady being there. Some of these guys too. I don't remember this one. Oh yeah, I think that's the old man. Who else is here? There's another one. I don't remember that guy in the robe, the toga. Alright, so how does he look? I kind of like the blue sheen he has here in his original form, but you can tell like the cloak is a bit odd. Like it kind of clings to his ribcage in a way that probably shouldn't. So that's how he absorbs the souls in this one. Yeah, I kind of prefer the more blue tone to him. But oh well, they chose to go for more grayish one, so probably to match the restored version in Soul Reaver 1. Alright, so here we go. Gotta find a way out of here. So that's the crystal he mentioned. This is the time streaming chamber we just came from. There's all the large gear and machinery that Mobius uses to control basically the time stream. So here we go, at the beginning of our journey. You notice we don't have the Reaver because even though our health is not decaying, Mobius basically summoned it away with the staff. Now why would a staff work on a blade like that? We'll find out eventually. Also, don't let you see this lady here. Don't let the pretty portrait deceive you. Don't let it fool you with how angelic they're being depicted as helpless victims of war. Or these are all stone cold killers. So don't let the saintly images here depict you. These are all stone cold killers from the vampire purges. Which of course Vorador knows that. Let's grab a weapon since we don't have the Reaver just yet. Yes, I've heard people complain that not as much work was put into this one, but it does make sense because if you notice, it actually still looks very good for a PlayStation 2 game. I played it a few years ago, obviously in an unrestored version, like an unremastered, just a regular game, and it does look good. Raziel does have a bit more texture to his muscles here, obviously, and his claws and stuff, but I do kind of miss like the old light blue sheen he has. Maybe we'll get it back in Defiance when they remaster that game, since Raziel can kind of choose how he alters his appearance in one scene in that game. Ooh. So And we block with L1. I like these tutorials also, like a quick, simple one, tell you how to play the game without being too intrusive. Good at Soul. It's all going back to the wheel anyway. What I'm really looking forward to is seeing Vorador and some of the temples in this game. You'll notice right away the human enemies are much stronger here than they are originally in Soul Reaver. Obviously that's to give you a challenge. That's to give you a challenge so that the game is not overly easy, because it would be too easy if Raziel could kill almost every enemy in one hit or one spin. You've noticed you've also lost the constrict ability. We don't have it anymore. So now we have 3 options here. We have this, which is the Reaver. We have to shift to the Spectral Realm, and we have the map. And this is the original map in the original game. There's the pillars where we need to go. Now let's see if we have the additional map. We do not. Okay, so since we already have the in-game map here, they did not add the additional one to this one. It would have been interesting to see on that map overlaid where all this stuff was in comparison to Blood Omen 1 and even Soul Reaver 1.
Here it comes.
And Raziel can now kick. So I will tell you, this is a much more linear game than Soul Reaver 1. It is very much focused on story. Hey, look at that! Threw someone in the air. Yeah, they chose to focus more on story here than gameplay. There was supposed to be a lot more gameplay, but a lot of it got cut out as the game was unable to meet its completion deadline, so we lost a lot of stuff here, almost as much as Soul Reaver 1. We lost combat glyphs, we lost more Reavers, we lost entire temples, so it would be nice if someone could do a full restoration for this game and do like a full remake, because this game probably deserves it. They could even use the same audio and just add to it. Have some sound alikes for Raziel, or even just have Michael Bell come in and record new dialogue. Because when he's exploring the temples, he's really just himself. So you could have him record new dialogue for them in a remake.
Throughout the stronghold, I discovered evidence of my former nobility and my life as a Sarafan priest. This was the heritage so foully stolen from me when Kain raided my sacred crypt and defiled me.
Look at him just walking right up to the guards. They're no threat. He doesn't care. I heard someone say that Kain and Raziel seem to be probably poor combatants compared to, I guess, other games, but when you're this level of strong, you don't really need to have a lot of fancy moves, because you can just overwhelm and destroy everything. Although Kain's killed a lot of people over his 1,500 years, so if anything, Raziel might be a more poorer combatant since he's all spoiled from the ultimate vampire victory, so he didn't have to fight as hard as Kain did throughout his centuries. Alright, here we go, shifted to the Spectral Realm. See, I like these tutorials. I wish more games did stuff like that, where you just approach it and They give you a silent message on what to do, and that's it. No long drawn out tutorial. No intrusive voice like in Metal Gear Solid, even though I love those games, but no voice like the Colonel telling you press the A button to descend down a ladder, or here's how to rappel, press the action button. None of that stuff. It's just quick, clean, and simple. Just one line on the screen and you remember it. That's it. And there's our faithful companion, the Reaver. So what does the Spectre look like? Let's see. Not much difference. Like I said, I never liked the fact that it looks like the cloak is sticking to his ribcage. It looks more like some type of tight body shirt than the clan banner that's draped over his shoulder. Because this looks more like a scarf hiding his face, but the other one looks more almost like a muscle t-shirt. So there's the Reaver. You can see it's a bit more refined here. It doesn't quite have the same swirly pattern, which I missed. Apparently the goal was always to get it close to the actual blade, and they do so by the time of Defiance. It looks fully like the Soul Reaver physical blade, except in the spectral realm. But this is probably my least favorite of the three because it just looks like a line. It doesn't have the swirling pattern that the other one did, so this is probably my least favorite of all of them. Let's compare the it doesn't really look that different. Has a bit more detail to it in some parts. You can see the souls are now skulls here, and then by the time they get to Defiance, you actually see different types of enemy souls, human, monsters, etc. You see a lot of different ones. That one doesn't know where it's going. Here we go.
Away from the influence of Mobius's cursed staff, I could feel the strength of the Soul Reaver slowly returning. If that orb was as debilitating to vampires as it was to the blade, it gave Mobius a powerful advantage over his enemies. I finally understood how Mobius's crusade could decimate the vampires so successfully. If he could immobilize his enemies, they were at his mercy. But why, I wondered, would the staff have any effect on the Reaver?
So, I don't know if Silicon Knights ever intended for that to be an effect of the staff. I do think it's a necessity for the storyline, because again, it does explain how those mobs could actually overcome the vampires, because Kain becomes so powerful in that game, Blood Omen. And then also Vorador's so powerful that we'll be seeing that if every vampire was as powerful as that, it makes no sense that Mobius's army could destroy them so thoroughly. He had to have an advantage of some sort, and they made it the staff. Look at that, just destroys the human enemies. But you also notice that the souls lose some strength because they get killed by the Reaver. Since they're not vampire souls, they're not quite as hardy or durable. So they do lose some strength, they do not recover your full health. Ah, oh, come on. Yeah, that one barely has any strength to it. You have the projectile? There we go. God damn, come on. Yeah, this is still alive. Like, they are tough warriors, I guess, but it's really the staff that gives them the advantage. That's what they carry when they have to confront really particularly powerful vampires. I notice you also can no longer impale enemies like you used to. guess because humans aren't quite as vulnerable to impaling. Or maybe it's the armor that they're wearing. Even though it should still work as much as on humans as it does on vampires, since it's still impaling them. You can no longer impale from a distance. We'll ignore her since we don't need to focus on her right now. Now here's the first of some very interesting scenes coming up.
As I neared the stronghold's inner sanctum, a strange sensation crept over me. An indescribable feeling of displacement, a sense of vertigo, as reality itself appeared to warp and bend around me. The disturbance seemed to emanate from the sanctuary's furthest chapel. As I cautiously approached, the sense of dislocation intensified with each step. So this was the tomb of the beloved King William the Just, beatified here as the martyr and catalyst of Mobius's crusade. I was reminded of Kain's journey as a fledgling vampire, how Mobius coerced him to travel back in history and assassinate William, thus igniting a genocidal hatred of vampires among the citizens of Nosgoth. And here I discovered the source of the displacement. The Soul Reaver itself, laid out like a holy relic, and broken, apparently in the battle between William and Kain. I had not thought such a thing was possible, until, of course, Kain shattered the blade against me when he tried to strike me down. Thus, the captive spirit inhabiting the Reaver was released, and binding itself to me, became my symbiotic weapon.
He's almost recapping the previous game.
And so the Reaver met its former self, still imprisoned in this corporeal shell. I watched, mesmerized, as the Wraith blade uncoiled itself and snaked down the length of the physical blade. Embracing its twin, its mirror self, the Reaver's long dormant spirit was now fully aroused. And for the first time, I felt the true presence of this other entity, willful, ravenous, and deranged from thousands of years of imprisonment. The Reaver was now in command, and I, now merely its helpless host, felt my soul being leeched to restore the blade. But the Reaver knew better than to destroy its host, and just as I neared the brink of oblivion, the blade released its hold on me. As I recovered, I realized we were now bound together in a fragile alliance. The Reaver no longer merely my symbiotic weapon, but a sentient parasite competing for control.
What have you done to me, Mobius? Is this your trap?
How mine? Don't forget it was Kain who led you here, not I. While you curse me, the only soul in Nosgoth ready to guide and assist you, Kain laughs at our folly and revels in your dismay.
These blades, now coiled in sinister embrace, have inspired terror in the hearts of creatures far more durable than you, old man. Bound together as they are, I can only imagine what they could do to your soul's fragile shell.
Raziel, I beg you to stay your hand. This was none of my doing. I have sought only to aid you in your righteous quest.
Why, you're trembling, Mobius. Has your confidence abandoned you? You seem to have made a fatal error by leaving your precious staff behind. Is that where all your courage comes from?
Listen to me, Raziel. You don't know what you're doing. I have taken an enormous risk by appearing here before you, so defenseless, yet eager to prove my good intentions. If there's anything left of the Seraphim in you, you won't do this. While you threaten me, your true enemy eludes you.
Don't concern yourself with Kain, old man. He'll join you in hell soon enough. As you said, death comes for us all.
Yes, the wheel of fate demands it.
What did you say?
The wheel of fate The inexorable cycle of death and rebirth to which all men are compelled. We serve the same God, Raziel. To strike me down would be striking God's own attendant. And I don't believe even you would take that risk.
I tire of your games, Mobius. Now that I know you fear me, I needn't concern myself with you. Kain is waiting for me.
Go then, Raziel. Seek Kain out and destroy him in the name of the one God we both serve. You, who were once a Seraphim priest, murdered, profaned, destroyed, and reborn again from his mercy. You are now most powerfully equipped to be his agent, his instrument of restoration and retribution.
My own vengeance is motivation enough.
By my soul, you almost had me, my little blue assassin. But that'll be the one and only chance you get. I assure you of that.
I could now summon the blade at will, regardless of my strength. But once summoned, the blade's ravenous appetite could not be contained. It devoured the souls of its victims, and if I allowed it to become over-aroused, the Reaver would now turn its hunger on me.
Reaver convergence. Yeah, you notice you're losing the health upgrades we got. So yeah, now we can use the Reaver anytime we want, but it also drains your health the more you use it. You only got a few goes before it starts draining you, so use it wisely and sparingly, mainly against non-human enemies that you'll find later on. Mobius looks a bit livelier here. They put some meat on his bones. He doesn't look quite as decrepit anymore. Wonder what this basin is. Yeah, Raziel should have killed Mobius right there, but he did not, and he will have cause to regret it. The Elder God is also behind Mobius, which means the Elder God is not what he claims to be. Because anyone who will bankroll Mobius and his whole insane crusade is probably not someone to be trusted. So what are we gonna learn about the Elder later on?
So this was the legendary Janos Ordrin, reputed to have been the most ancient and diabolical vampire to have ever existed. According to folklore, he lived high in the cliffs of Nosgoth's northern mountains and preyed mercilessly on the defenseless villagers below. His reign of terror ended when the Seraphim finally hunted him down and tore his throbbing heart from his still-living body. This relic came to be known as the Heart of Darkness, and was supposedly imbued with the power to restore vampiric unlife. The Seraphim therefore guarded it carefully, lest the heart fall into the hands of their enemies. But I wondered, could Janos Ordrin truly have been as monstrous as depicted here? Or was this merely artistic license by the Seraphim, who sought to lionize themselves by demonizing their darkest enemy?
It's interesting that he still criticizes them a bit while still being obviously in love with them. He hasn't quite yet shaken that view. Will he? We'll find out. One thing you'll notice is Raziel's easily convinced by stuff he sees. He's not the most how would you put it? He's not the most incredulous of people. He's very easily subverted with minimal evidence. That'll prove to be a very big character flaw as we go along throughout this game. He's kind of gullible because he wants to be. He wants to imagine that his past is something much brighter and better than he expects. So we might actually need a weapon now that the Soul Reaver's been compromised a bit. They did not fix the disappearing weapons. That always annoyed the hell out of me. Here's something important for the lore.
Strange how my history came full circle. This chapel, I realized, was a memorial to my former Sarafan brethren and myself. All of us martyred here. And then so cruelly profaned by Kain when he imposed his gift on our noble corpses. For the first time, I beheld the image of my Sarafan self, memorialized here among my fallen comrades. It tortured me to see how noble and pure I had been, and what a vile phantasm I had become. And a profound sense of injury, of loss and betrayal welled up in me, so overwhelming I could barely contain it. All I wanted at this moment was to find Kain and destroy him.
Yeah, I prefer the axes or whatever those things are, spears. So here they are, all of them. There's Turel. We never saw him in the first game until we did the bonus features. Yeah, so it doesn't look like they did a lot of restoration of it as far as him. They focus more on like the background of the rock and the castle walls. There's Rahab. The little seahorses on his chest, you know, he's the underwater vampire, so that's a nice hint towards what he'll become eventually. There's Melchiah, looking like a relatively normal man, not the Frankenstein monstrosity he'd become. Who else is here? Duma. So you notice Duma has some type of demonic figure behind him. That could be a hint towards Raziel eventually confronting him in the future. We'll see. You know, a little foreshadowing of things to come, just like the Rahab seahorses on his chest. I always wondered what that was the first time I played this game, but now I think I have a little bit more of a grasp on it. And there's good old Zephon, Spider-Man himself. He just looks like a weasel. You see his face there with the red hair and the triangular chin. He just looks like someone who's very, very shady, even for these guys. And this symbol is actually called an Ouroboros, snake devouring itself. I never knew what it was before this game. This game actually taught me a lot of vocabulary again. There they go with the language. A lot of words that you probably don't hear in everyday conversation. Like malefactor. That was the very first time I ever heard that word before, malefactor. Never heard it until this time. Alright, so what direction did we come from? Okay, we came from the door. Gotta go upstairs here. That's why I like this game in Metal Gear Solid, because like I said, the characters actually sound competent. They sound smart, educated. You know, Nosgoth might be Middle Ages in terms of technology and architecture and all that stuff, but they still have books. You know, they can still read. Especially Kain, who was an educated noble and obviously passed it on to his sons. I know Dumas a bit dim. He's probably not the brightest of fellows, but overall, these are very, very educated, very well-spoken characters. They are not ignorant buffoons. Oh, we can actually see the detail of this now. Yeah, some type of Sarafan saint. That's pretty interesting. So I like that they actually sound like gods, like how you would expect gods to sound, you know, as opposed to just regular old crappy human beings who don't know how to speak to each other, you know. Because that annoys the hell out of me sometimes, you know. People will ask, well, why can't you have realistic sounding dialogue in movies? Why do they sound like that? And why don't these people speak like normal human beings? And it's sometimes they have a point. Like in Silent Hill 2, how everyone just sounds so weird that it actually harms the story at times, the original one. But then other times it's like, have you heard regular people speak? Do you want to hear characters who are kings and gods and demons and angels and stuff like that in movies speak like that? No, of course you don't. You want to hear them sound superior to what regular people sound like, because regular ass people a lot of the time sound ghetto as hell. And it doesn't matter what background you're from, all races, all backgrounds, rich, poor, doesn't matter. A lot of people in real life just sound completely incompetent when they speak, and you cannot have that for these characters. They have to sound like how you would expect gods to sound, because these basically are gods, for better or worse. Especially Kain and Vorador and stuff like that, characters like that who are basically immortal and have been around for a millennium. They need to sound educated and superior to you, because that's what they are. They are gods compared to the average human being, you know, in Nosgoth. Here it goes. This the exit? Nope, we still got a little more to go. I want to see the view. Oh no, there it is, right there. Awesome.
I emerged, and for the first time beheld Nosgoth.
I actually prefer the original trees.
The land overflowed with abundant life and vitality, and I knew with certainty then that the world I had left behind was nothing more than the corpse of Nosgoth, a lifeless husk bled dry by the corruption of Kain's parasitic empire. This was the fragile world Kain sacrificed to preserve his own petty life and ambition, heedless of the profound cost. The sight only deepened my resolve. I sensed that the pillars lay to the northwest. If Kain truly waited to confront me there, I would not disappoint him.
Yeah, so that is a fitting way to describe it, the corpse of Nosgoth. That is basically the end of the world, as it is pretty much. Nothing more than a lifeless corpse left behind. Now the question is it really that way because of Kain? Or is it some other reason that the world is so decayed? We shall soon find out. So I'm comparing the trees in the old one. I can kind of see what some people say, that they might prefer the original, because some things have more detail, like the Seraphim imagery right there has more color to it. But then the trees actually look, I think, a little better in the old version. Look at them, they look like regular pine trees. Now they try to spruce them up a bit, but yeah, I think actually prefer the original version for this view. That's kind of odd. So yeah, I get why people say that the first game is probably a superior remaster. This one Raziel looks better from a texture standpoint, but I prefer the blue, especially given the intro cutscene that he had where he's very, very blue. And then here, like, I actually prefer the old view as opposed to the new one, but it still looks okay either one, no matter which one you go with. But I think the trees have a bit more texture to them than the current version. Now this spiral symbol here, this is supposed to be part of a temple that was cut. I won't tell you which one just yet, but yeah, that was supposed to be much more significant there, and unfortunately that's all that's left, that little pillar right there. So yeah, this game has a lot of cut content, maybe even more than Soul Reaver 1 in some ways. But unfortunately very little of it was completed, so we cannot they cannot restore like they did partly the Soul Reaver 1 content. They'd have to remake the whole game, which I actually hope they do eventually, if this picks up steam.
I did not yet possess the means to unlock this barrier, but this enigmatic symbol was clearly the key.
So here's the door we're gonna have to come back to, and we are running out of soul power, so we better go save. Oh, there's a fish right there. Is it a salmon? There's those nice simple tutorials again. Now,
As I passed this arcane landmark, a wisp of the Reaver's energy was drawn into the ring, illuminating it. This created a beacon of sorts in the spirit world. If ever I found myself depleted in the spectral realm, and my soul tossed on the ethereal winds, these beacons would draw me back to safety and restore me.
that is your checkpoint system. When you get killed, we'll have to start over. you return to this. If you get killed in the spectral realm, you come back here to wherever one of those posts are right there. When I first saw this view, I was pretty taken aback. This looked incredible back in the PS2 days. Now eventually I am going to stop messing around with the graphical shift and just leave it as a new style. I'm just taking in the view. Just trying to see how everything compares. We need some soul power, so we better go find some enemies soon. Because we are running out of juice right now. So these games, water physics or like water effects are not as impressive as Silent Hill 2's at the time. But they did try, because I remember
These ancient obelisks were mysteriously attuned to my spiritual essence. By simply touching the symbol, I could safely preserve an imprint of my soul, and thus create a milestone to which I could return when weary, and from which I could resume my journey.
yeah, so I remember way back in 2001 when they released the first, not still images, the first trailers of Metal Gear Solid. I remember the Soul Reaver 2 team saying that after they saw the water effects in that game, the rain and stuff like that, that they felt compelled to improve their own system, because they knew they were up against tough competition from Kojima. And then obviously Silent Hill 2 was released that fall, and then they had great water effects, so they had to up their game. I don't know how successful they were, but they did improve some of it. This is like Blood Omen, where you had the shrines to save your game. This is where you save your game here. I don't know how no one else has noticed these little temples right here in all of history, but I'm guessing they just assume it's just some random mystical stuff. You know, nothing too important. Maybe they just assume it's all connected to the Seraphim temple. I wonder if I should save with my health, or if I should go a little further, because we do need to recover some health right there. I think the next enemy is right over there, right above that hill. Let's save. We'll do a little more and then we'll save. We'll save again, rather. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff here that's very reminiscent of Blood Omen 1, and it's on purpose. These resemble the shrines that Kain would save at. You'll meet certain characters who were in Blood Omen 1, not just Mobius. You know, it's including Mobius, but you'll see some others too.
While I had only just escaped the stronghold, I sensed that in time my journey would return me full circle to this place. Infiltrating the fortress, however, would be no small feat. The balcony that had provided my escape was now well beyond my reach, leaving this massive gateway as the only means of entry. The gates were sealed, but like the time-streaming chamber I had seen earlier, their operation was undoubtedly linked to that odd crystal mounted above the entrance.
You know what, I think we'll go as far as Kain's meeting, and then a little section after that and we'll be done, because we'll find another safe spot over there.
Seize him!
Ooh. Yeah, so there's no explanation given for why you don't have the constrict ability anymore. I choose to interpret it as being that Raziel was slightly weakened by his trip through time. It kind of messed with his system a bit, his essence, and so that's why he lost that ability. Because otherwise he would have just killed Dumas for nothing. And he was going to kill him anyway, but it doesn't make sense that he would gain a gift from all the other brothers except for him. Okay, so the trees look a little bit more better over here than they do in that first view. I guess it depends. But yeah, I choose to interpret it as being that he just lost in mid-transit, especially when Mobius pulled him out of there, which like he said himself was an unnatural act. Basically, he didn't allow him to complete his trip to the time stream. So that's how I interpreted it. He lost it midway in the portal, because it makes no sense that Duma would not give him any type of gift after he consumed his soul. Here we have our first vampire corpse. You notice they look very human, not like the monsters in Kain's era. This guy has a cannon. So they were completing or initiating work into firearms here. It makes sense they would want to defend from the vampires, but they never quite got past that. That's a lot of vampire heads right there. Oh, a torch, we can set someone on fire. Yeah, let's set this guy on fire. I am noticing a bit of stuttering. Let's feed the Reaver for a bit. There is a bit of stuttering. I don't remember if it was here in the original part of the game or not. I'd have to play the PS2 version to compare. Which I probably will eventually, but not now. Yeah, not much difference here between the crows. I do like this water effect. That's nice. Oh, we got dogs. I hate killing the dogs, but these are not ordinary dogs. These are war dogs. Look at that, they got an axe on their head. So these guys have a shrine to all the vampires they've killed here. So not exactly the sanest of people here. Mobius might claim that his pursuit is all noble, but we're starting to see otherwise, right? Like, noble people do not leave their corpses of enemy vampires impaled or crucified like this over the landscape. This is more like Vlad the Impaler. So right away, we know that Mobius is not to be trusted. It just does not look like the work of noble heroes. And if you've played Blood Omen, you know that this bastard is not to be trusted. So what is really going on here? Because that's just nothing but a bunch of vampire villagers that they've killed. I want to toss this guy off the ledge, but I need to hit him with a projectile. Here we go. Toss him off the ledge. Take your dog with you. There you go. God damn. Hope they can swim. So this looked really graphically impressive back in the PS2 days. one thing with some old games like this, it's kind of hard to appreciate just how great they look back then compared to how they look now. You know, you see it now and it looks nothing special. Even in the remastered form, it's like it's okay, but this is really actually a huge graphical leap back in PS2 days. It's the same thing with Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid 2. It's just, you see them today and it's just really difficult to appreciate just how good these games looked back then. Like, that pretty was probably the biggest graphical leap in recent memory. Even taking into account PS3 to PS4 and PS4 to PS5 obviously now, but it was PS1 to PS2 was a huge leap, because this looked much better than anything we'd seen in Soul Reaver 1 for sure. Like, even seeing it in its unaltered form, like you see here with regular Raziel and stuff, this still looked way better than what we had seen in Soul Reaver 1. And obviously Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid 2 were miles ahead of Silent Hill 1 and Metal Gear Solid 1 in terms of visuals. Maybe not story or content wise, but in terms of visuals, they were a masterclass ahead of it. So
these vampires had nothing in common with the deranged jackals I left behind in Kain's derelict empire. They seemed to retain much of their former humanity. In this era, vampires were clearly not the uncontested predators we had been. These creatures were hunted mercilessly and oppressed. And while I still believed that vampirism was a plague and had to be wiped out, there was nothing noble or righteous in this crusade. This was simply ruthless persecution.
he's starting to see just a little bit. Now, a little interesting note, there was supposed to be a scene here where Raziel saw a young female vampire get killed by the mob of vampire hunters, and that was actually taken out because they felt that if he saw that, it would have turned him too quickly against the humans. If he saw something that brutal, you know, a younger female vampire is not just not bothering anyone, just going along her own business, basically cornered, being tracked down and killed by a group of ruthless hunters that would have turned Raziel away against the humans. So they made the choice to cut out that scene. I wonder if it was ever fully rendered or not, if it's still in the archives or not. I'm guessing we might see art of it in the bonus content that we did not explore for Soul Reaver 2. But yeah, that makes sense. You can't have him turning too early against Mobius's troops. You also notice there's a dog coming. Sorry, Fido. I try to not kill the dogs usually, but I wanted to stare at this flag. You notice the eye there and the hourglass symbol. That eye is a very important symbol in Legacy of Kain lore, and we'll come to see its meaning soon enough. But that keep an eye out, no pun intended, for that eye. It is a very important piece of iconography in the lore for the story. That eye has some significance that we'll soon see eventually. Let's kill this buffoon. I do think it's a cheat that all the vampire hunters pretty much look the same, but I guess Mobius just has his own standard uniform and type that he goes for soldiers. So combat is obviously not the focus here. Like I say, your moveset is still limited. He has a few more moves, but obviously combat is not the focus here. It's storytelling and atmosphere. And they do a magnificent job there, but as I was saying in the Soul Reaver 1 bonus content video, Crystal Dynamics might share a bit of a blame for how games have transitioned from being fun to play and having a wonderful story to mainly being focused on the story and sometimes being not fun to play at all, aka games like The Last of Us 2 in my opinion, which was a drag to play. And then you have Hellblade, which I've heard I saw part of a playthrough for that and it looked boring as hell outside of the story. I can name some others, but again, Crystal Dynamics might be able to share just a bit of the blame for that with their story here, because at the time this really was one of the best stories in all of gaming Very cinematic, very epic, very refined level of storytelling here, and unfortunately it comes at the expense of the gameplay sometimes, and I think in retrospect that was a huge mistake. Part of it was Eidos. Eidos was always a bitch about giving their development teams the necessary time to you know, finish their projects. Core design that I worked on Tomb Raider can probably attest to that. Eidos was a bitch to work for. You did not want to work for that company. They were ruthless. And as a result, a lot of the games basically released incomplete because they didn't give them the time. So I think this game, as well as it did back then, and it did really well, and as much as it was well received, I think they would have benefited from giving them the extra 6 months or a year that they needed to complete the game fully, because it would have been one hell of an epic game the way they planned it. Now this game, it wasn't like Silent Hill 2 where I was immediately anticipating the sequel and had to get it right away, or Silent Hill 3. This game, I played the first Soul Reaver 1 and loved it, but it was still, obviously it ended on to be continued, so I really thought nothing further of it for a while. I played Blood Omen. I liked it. There's a lot of good, interesting stuff you can do at that game, a lot of different ways you can kill enemies, but it was pretty dated. Even by that time it was pretty dated. So, oh, look at the crick of that back, the bones crackling. But yeah, Raziel needs some calisthenics. But yeah, I didn't really jump into this one right away. I think I got it maybe, I don't know, maybe a month or two after it released. I'm not sure. I do know I didn't get it day one. I kind of sort of kept a loose track of it. But once I actually dove into the story and completed the game, I loved it. For a time, this was one of my favorite games ever. It kind of got surpassed by Blood Omen 2 for the first time I played Blood Omen 2, because I really liked some of the gameplay stuff there. But then after a while, I compared the two stories and realized that Blood Omen 2 was basically a piece of crap story-wise. It did not measure up to Soul Reaver 2 at all. And Kain's character got mangled there, along with Borodor's and someone else's who is very important to the lore. So I was a bit deceived by Blood Omen 2 at first, but I eventually found my way back to Soul Reaver 2. And for the longest time, for many years, this remained one of my favorite, if not the favorite story in gaming that I've ever played. I've had some other ones since then that are pretty great. Persona 3 being an obvious choice, which I'm now playing the remake of. I just started yesterday really, so look forward to exploring that. But Persona 3, Persona 4, Silent Hill 3, Spider-Man even. Spider-Man had a surprising story. Batman Arkham City, even though that one wasn't quite as good as it could have been, but it was still pretty good. So there have been others since then. Obviously, many people will say The Last of Us. The Last of Us did not have as much of an impact on me as it did on other people, because I already knew going into it everything that was going to happen. So it's pretty tough to have an impact when you know exactly how the story is going to end and every single path that characters take. But I appreciated it for what it was. So, and then recently, Silent Hill 2 Remake had a pretty damn good story. So there have been others for sure. There have been others that had a pretty great story, but this has always stuck with me as one of the highlights of gaming, and something that showed a game can actually be art. They really can be art, and it's not just mindless fun, you know, like it's not just, oh, you're playing a mindless game for kids. No, video games can actually be art, and this was one of the very first games that demonstrated it. And its story here is by far superior to any of the stories that its rival Silicon Knights ever put out, besides possibly the original Blood Omen. That one's still pretty good, but as far as Eternal Darkness and then some of the games they did later on, Too Human and stuff like that, no, like Silicon Knights would never reach the heights that Crystal Dynamics did with its storytelling. Okay, so we open up the door. We know the pillars are behind there, so let's confront Kain, because we're going to confront Kain. We're going to go to a mystery surprise area that we find after Kain. And then that's where we're going to save and stop for the night, because that's a pretty good chunk of the game for the beginning section. I'd say this game is probably maybe like 6 to 8 hours long if you take your time. So that's a pretty good chunk of the beginning section of the game. So let's go confront our old master. I like this mellow theme that plays throughout.
The pillars
Very
of
mysterious.
Nosgoth. Pristine, whole, and uncorrupted. I had never beheld them in this undefiled state, yet something profound and indelible resonated within me at the sight. And there, waiting at the very heart of the pillars, was the canker that was destined to destroy them.
I know you're there, Raziel.
Mobius led me to
Yeah,
you,
he knows he's there.
though I might have
He
guessed
knows he's there.
you'd meet me here.
And if Mobius told you I was hidden on the underside of hell, would you throw yourself into oblivion to pursue me? Mobius trawls for the ignorant and unwary, hauling his gasping prey from the streams of their destinies. Stay out of his net, Raziel.
Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kain. I have pursued you here for one purpose. You will pay for your betrayal, and balance will thus be restored to Nosgoth.
And whose will is satisfied then? The will of Raziel or Mobius?
Would I be better manipulated by you, Kain? Now, turn and face me. The chase is over.
This isn't a chase, Raziel. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. We've been brought here for a reason. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I.
Face me, Kain. Even you shouldn't die a coward's death.
Isn't it customary to grant the condemned a final request?
I recall no such courtesy from you.
Indulge me, Raziel. All I ask is that you listen. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, Raziel. The ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. This is where all of Nosgoth is betrayed. In this instant, Ariel, the Balance Guardian, is murdered by dark forces bent on overthrowing the Pillars. Her spirit is just now tearing free, lost in the ether, trying to find its way here. You have already seen how she comes to haunt these Pillars.
Bound here by your refusal to die. You are the reason this land becomes diseased. As long as you remain alive, you condemn Nosgoth to an eternity of decay.
Be still, Raziel. See this. As Ariel dies, I am being born to take her place as Balance Guardian. Such is my destiny.
My God.
At the moment of my first cry, Ariel's beloved, the Guardian Nupraptor, finds her corpse. Racked with grief and tormented by suspicions of treachery, Nupraptor plunges into a madness which overflows and infects all of the Guardians who are symbiotically bound, including me. The repercussions of Ariel's assassination were expertly calculated. The entire circle descends into madness, and I am tainted at the moment of my birth, instantly rendered incapable of fulfilling the role destiny has prepared for me.
Shall I show you the same mercy you showed the rest of the Circle, then? You blithely murdered them to restore their pillars, yet your hand faltered when it came to the final sacrifice. What makes you exempt, Kain? You're merely the last man standing. Why condemn me for simply carrying out what you hadn't the courage to do yourself?
Let's drop the moral posturing, shall we? We both know there's no altruism in this pursuit. Your reckless indignation led you here. I counted on it. There's no shame in it, Raziel. Revenge is motivation enough. At least it's honest. Hate me, but do it honestly. 30 years hence, I am presented with a dilemma. Let's call it a two-sided coin. If the coin falls one way, I sacrifice myself and thus restore the pillars. As the last surviving vampire in Nosgoth, this would mean the annihilation of our species. Mobius made sure of that. If the coin lands on the reverse, I refuse the sacrifice and thus doom the pillars to an eternity of collapse. Either way, the game is rigged.
We agree then that the pillars are crucial and must be restored.
Yes, Raziel. And that's why we've come full circle to this place.
So after all this, you make my case for me. To end this stalemate, you must die so that new guardians can be born.
Pillars don't belong to them, Raziel. They belong to us.
Your arrogance is boundless, Kain.
There's a third option. A monumental secret, hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny, Raziel. It's all laid out for you here.
You said it yourself, Kain. There are only two sides to your coin.
Apparently so. But suppose you throw a coin enough times. Suppose one day it lands on its edge.
Corruption of the pillars. So, a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people disagree with that interpretation of what happened with the circle, because originally Nopraptor aimed the psychic wave specifically at the circle members. And here Kain made it sound like he didn't know what he was doing and it overflowed and affected them. So some people played the original Blood Omen had a problem with that. I think both can be true. I think it can be true both that Nopraptor aimed the psychic attack at them because he suspected them of murdering Ariel, and then also because they were linked, that was why the psychic attack was able to reach them in the first place, because otherwise he could have just attacked everyone in Nosgoth. He could have just killed everyone in the land, but he only killed it. He didn't even kill anyone. He only made the specific circle members insane. So it might have been that he was only able to reach them because he was psychically linked to them. So both interpretations can be true. I think a little bit of it is Crystal Dynamics trying to forge their own view on the story, but I think also both of them can be true. It can be true that he did aim it intentionally. He did intentionally make them insane to corrupt the pillars, and it could also be cracked his neck there a bit. It can also be true that he was only able to do it because they were linked. Otherwise, why wouldn't he just target everyone in Nosgoth? You know, just kill everyone or make everyone insane. So I think both interpretations can be true. Also, that bit of line Kain had about the tale being proved and ill-conceived, that's actually a bit of a meta reference towards Crystal Dynamics itself, with the story in the first game, the original ending not being quite the best and being a bit too simple. They had to refine it a bit for this version. So Kain just gave us some valuable information. You also notice the pillars have a lot more detail here that they had before. They also changed the pillar symbols from the very simple, straightforward ones in Blood Omen, you know, a skull, a brain, stuff like that, and an hourglass, to ancient, more esoteric symbols. Again, another little detail that bugs some people that play Blood Omen, but it makes sense because this actually makes them look like more ancient constructions, whereas before, like you needed to do it that way because of the graphics of the PS1, but it didn't really make sense that this ancient civilization, that whoever built these would have built them with such crude imagery. You know, oh, let's put a brain for one, let's put a skull for death, or a pile of skulls, and let's put a sword for the conflict guardian. It's just a bit too simplistic for people designing these types of architectures. They would have gone for something more magical. So we just had a talk with Kain. We did not kill him because he knew we were here the whole time, even before we spoke. I don't think Raziel quite grasped the situation of time travel, where Kain knows exactly everything he's going to do because he's already seen it before. I don't think Raziel quite understands how that worked, that he can't sneak up on Kain or surprise him in any way, because Kain already knows exactly where he's going to be at every moment in time. The same thing for Mobius. I don't think Raziel quite grasps that reality. He's a bit simple-minded like that.
I didn't know what impulse stayed my hand, why I had so willingly allowed Kain to escape me when I had pursued him for so long. I had no reason to trust Kain after he had valued me so little. And yet, I found myself intrigued by his words. I had been too cruelly used to so gullibly play his pawn. But if this world truly had secrets to divulge, I was determined to expose them.
It's fate, Raziel. His words touched something instinctive in you, something you didn't know you had. It's the universe stopping your hand, or guiding it. Now come on, you mean to tell me nobody knew this was here for thousands of years? I'm pretty sure the Circle Guardians probably knew, with them being constantly at the pillars. They just didn't do anything about it because they couldn't open this particular door that lays up ahead. Only one Circle member, Mortanius, would have been able to open it, and he had other business to attend to, so he probably wasn't interested in that. But I have to believe that someone at some point questioned, what are these pillars here for? What exactly do they do? Are they just random symbols? Somebody must have questioned it. Now, one thing I did not like between this game and Defiance is the way it changes. Where I don't know if they mean to imply that the world changes between then and now, but when you come back in Defiance here, this area is gated off, and there's a whole other different path. And stuff like that really bugs me in games when they try to add details to something, but they end up changing it drastically, and so it no longer resembles the area that was before. Now, obviously, that was because that area wasn't planned out in Defiance. You know, that area right over there, here is just a mountain, it's just a hill. But in Defiance, it's got a whole gateway to it, and it's got like a yard and another ancient area. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that wasn't here before in this game, and usually that type of stuff bugs me quite a bit. There might be one solid explanation for it, but unfortunately it's something that we can't really get into until either Defiance or maybe even later on in this game. Around past the halfway point might be an appropriate time to bring it up. But yeah, that does bug me a bit when you revisit areas in certain games and then you see pieces of it or places that weren't there before, and you know they weren't there before, but they were added in there and they're just supposed to slot easily. You know, they just slide without any difficulty, seamlessly. That's the word I'm looking for. They just slide seamlessly into the game world, or at least that's what the developers expect, and it doesn't quite work out that way. So let's go to Spectral. See that? Now the path opens up. I'm pretty sure Mortanius would have been able to reach this, but I guess since he couldn't open up the door behind this, he had no reason to ever go here. He's the only one who can shift between the material and spectral realms among the human sorcerers. I also didn't like the way Raziel snaps his arm like that. You can see it's kind of jarring compared to the more fluid motion of Soul Reaver 1. He only uses one hand now as opposed to two, like he did in Soul Reaver 1, but that little detail always bugged me. The fact that it snaps back like that. It's too sudden, in my opinion. Very, very sudden. Alright, we got a couple souls. Ooh, our first Slua. Our first underworld predator. Let's eat those, because regardless of whatever else is going on, those guys are wild animals, so we have to wipe them out because they do not belong here. They're intruders here. They might be the natural predator of the spectral realm, but the whole point is there shouldn't be any predators in the spectral realm, at least in this layer of it. So I have a theory as to what those guys are doing here, but again, it's not something that we can probably discuss until Legacy of Kain Defiance, where it might have some importance. It's too early so far.
From the moment of my arrival, I had the constant and palpable sensation of being watched. Someone, it seemed, was keenly interested in my presence here.
So yeah, somebody's watching you, Raziel. Like the song says, I always feel like somebody's watching me. Now, I don't know if they fixed it in this version or not, but I'm not going to risk it. I believe there was a slight glitch in the original when you disturbed those crows. There's 2 packs of them, one here, one at a temple that we'll visit shortly in the next video. But there was a glitch that would kind of lock out the game when you visited that area. I don't know if it's still here or not, so I'm not gonna risk it. So those trees look much better, but this one looks a bit too different here. That's that moss growing from the ceiling. Again, they did a very, very good job on a Soul Reaver one, but this one looks like it had a lot less effort put into it. Mainly because I think it may have been that they couldn't decide where to go, like how far should they enhance it or not. So it might not be a result of laziness or not knowing how to do it, because like I said, Reyna Aldrin was supervising this and she did great work, phenomenal work on the first Soul Reaver. So I think it might have been indecisiveness. Damn, I can't say that word. Indecisiveness, where they couldn't quite figure out how much they wanted to enhance it for modern audiences, and so they kind of try to take a middle road, and it mostly works, but I still prefer some of the old details. These guys are fine, you don't have to worry about them. But those at the top over there, do not disturb them for any reason, until we can confirm that there's not a glitch over there, because you do not want your game to lock up. Now here's the temple I was telling you about, the one that Mortanius probably didn't bother with. See, it makes sense here because it looks blue like the figure, but then over here it looks more like a rotted grayish purplish color, so it doesn't quite make as much sense anymore. But if Raziel feels he's blue, then I guess he views himself as blue. I guess also the fact that it's also tucked into the mountain here, so it's like a little side door. Somebody might have just imagined, oh, it's just a mural, nothing else. Since I assume that only Raziel can see that little energy beacon there, it's not actually leaking energy like that. It's just something only he can see, only he can perceive it. That it's an opening, not a mural. But I guess for anybody else, it is just a regular painting. They might think, oh, it's just one room behind her, nothing else. It's just a guard tower. Or it's just, I don't know, something left over from an ancient era. So I'm guessing they might not have ascribed too much importance to it. That's why they mainly left it alone here in the mountains.
From the look of it, this door had been sealed for centuries. I began to realize it was no mere coincidence that I found myself standing here, beneath this winged figure with blue skin and cloven hands so like my own, and bearing this unique key.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence. That's way too much to be a coincidence. See, here I like how he looks exactly like him, more or less, a skeletal version. Here is not quite as defined, but I still get what he's saying though. I always like this sound effect coming up too for when you open up the temple doors.
And so it was with a sense of gravity and trepidation that I unsealed that ancient door and crossed the threshold.
I like that phrase, cross the threshold. Look at that, there's a whole temple behind this door. You don't quite hear it as clearly here, but you'll hear it later on when he opens up the other doors. And it's sealed again. Yeah, so nobody who does not have the Reaver Blade can enter that door, physical or otherwise. These guys are called Shays. They're basically little bits of spirit that come together to form a creature. They do not have souls because they're not really living beings. They're just soul energy, so you can't unfortunately feed from them. Now you'll notice this area is very ancient looking. Yeah, it doesn't look too different in enhanced graphics, but you notice there's a sea anemone or fossilized stuff here in the floor. That means this is a very, very old, ancient place. Look, that is a primordial. So this is probably from Nosgoth, very early period. Ooh, got a surprise one here. You notice that meter on the right, that's the Reaver meter. And the more it grows, the more you have to be careful, because at one point the Reaver, if it gets to critical level, it will start absorbing your own soul. See, there you go right there. Once you get to the end, it'll have like this alarm sound to it, almost like this shrill alarm, and that's when you gotta be careful that it starts absorbing your own energy. Can we still hear him? Can we still hear him? Let's see. There he is. Who might that be? This is some ominous music. You notice Raziel can no longer glide as much with his wings either. I think that's intentional, to limit how far you can go with them. There's the Reaver Blade shrine that we need to save. You barely notice that whisper in the original unless you have the subtitles turned on.
As I entered the chamber, I sensed that it had been sealed for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. And while this room was clearly built when the pillars were erected, I knew that no human hand could have shaped this place, and that perhaps it had never been seen by human eyes. The surrounding murals depicted a winged race, their features so like my own, but beautiful, where mine were grotesque, and angelic, while mine were demonic. I tried to decipher these images. A great war, but with combatants like none I had ever seen. The pillars, raised by this winged race, who thus defeated their adversaries. The winged beings again, writhing in agony, apparently afflicted with the same bloodthirst I had so recently suffered. And throughout the chamber, inscribed everywhere, images of the Reaver itself. Was this what Kain had urged me to discover? I wondered.
Lies, Raziel.
Look who it is. It's our old friend and supposed benefactor. What's he doing here?
Do not be deceived.
My ancient benefactor. And I dared to hope we had parted ways forever. Your silence was refreshing. It lasted. No doubt you have a conveniently inexpressible reason for your presence here.
Do not be insolent, Raziel. I am eternally present here and everywhere, now and always. I am the still center of the turning wheel, the hub of this world's destiny.
But perhaps not so omnipotent as you'd have me believe. Your hold on me appears to be tenuous. I no longer seem to need you. Yet I'm guessing you still need me.
Yeah, you tell him.
This impudence is unworthy of you, Raziel. Do not forget that you have a task to fulfill here. You are indebted to me.
Indebted? You would have me show gratitude for a gift I didn't ask to be bestowed. Do you forget that you forced me to inhabit this vile carcass?
I restored you to yourself, Raziel. It was Kain who destroyed you. The very enemy you've just let slip through your grasp. Do not fail me, my servant.
I serve no one. Not you, not Kain, and not your lackey Mobius.
Mobius is my good servant. I have many.
And if I tell Mobius that he's worshipping a giant squid, do you think his faith will falter?
You have grown willful, Raziel. But beware. To embrace a serpent is to invite poison into your heart. Kain is a sinuous beast. He will seduce and deceive you. You pride yourself on your free will, yet you let that degenerate deter your resolve.
I harbor no illusions about his integrity, nor anyone else's. In fact, I am beset by manipulation on all sides. I merely seek the truth.
These are the fathomless truths, Raziel. The agony of birth and death and rebirth. This is the wheel of fate, the purifying cycle which sustains all life. Vampires are an abomination, a plague which leeches this land of its spiritual strength. They obstruct the flow of life and death. their souls stagnate in their wretched corpses. But the wheel must turn. Death is inexorable and cannot be denied. Your destiny is irresistible, Raziel. You are my Soul Reaver, the scourge of the vampires, reaper of their apostate souls. Remain steadfast, end the vampire's parasitic curse, and restore Nosgoth. Kain's blood belongs on your hands.
Kain indeed deserves to die for condemning me to this repugnant form, but if and when I kill him, it will be for me alone to decide.
Kain destroyed you without a flicker of remorse. He tore the soul from your noble corpse, and after you had served him faithfully for 1,000 years, he discarded you in the abyss on a jealous whim. Remember your rage, Raziel. Let it guide your hand.
Oh, so good, even after all these years. Such great, crisp dialogue. Like I said, it really does feel like two demigods or two gods talking to each other, which I absolutely love. That word, sinuous, I'd never heard that word before, and I don't think I've ever heard it since in any other medium except for that. I always wonder if he was saying insidious, because obviously we all know Darth Sidious from Star Wars. That's where that word comes from. That's the root of that word, insidious. But no, it's sinuous. I guess it's supposed to be distrustful or predator or something like that. I should probably look up that word, because I think I would mainly skip that page whenever I read the Soul Reaver 2 script in the bonus feature, the supplemental materials in the original game, and so I never quite understood what he was saying there. You'll notice there are symbols here. These are symbols of all the elements. You have one that looks like a sun. This is obviously fire. So like I said, this is the sun rays, and then these we do not know yet. We'll figure those out eventually, both in this game and then in Defiance. But yeah, these are symbols of abilities that were supposed to be in the game, and they are not. Another thing that was actually cut from them. So Raziel was supposed to be able to get some of these powers back, the way he did in the first Soul Reaver too. The first Soul Reaver. But we'll talk about that later. Let's go save. I think we've done enough for the night. Next time when we come back, we can proceed further into the area above, which is actually a swamp, and it'll lead to our first of many temples. So let's go save. We did alright. We got some trophies. We got a couple of them. Talked to Kain. Met our old sponsor again. Now, some people have questioned why Raziel turned so quickly against him when he seemed not friendly but accepting on in the original game. But the thing you have to remember is and a couple people have pointed this out, I think it's the fact when he hears that Mobius serves the Elder God. That's the tipping point, because as he knows from history, as we all know, Mobius is basically a corrupt, untrustworthy, manipulative bastard. So I think that sets the wheels in Raziel's brain, where he's thinking, well, if Mobius serves the Elder God, then what the hell is the Elder God that he's serving? He has this guy as his service. I think that's when he starts to turn on him, right there when Mobius says the Wheel of Fate. Because up until then, Raziel has no connection to it whatsoever. He doesn't know about anything that's going on in Nosgoth's past. The moment Mobius says that to spare himself, so that Raziel doesn't kill with the Soul Reaver combined, I think that's when it starts. And also, you gotta remember, Raziel did not ask to be resurrected. He's still angry that he was brought back in this form, you know. It's like I said, like he said, he didn't ask for this. And also, he must be thinking, if the Elder is so powerful, why didn't he resurrect him in a better form, you know, somewhat better looking? Why didn't he restore him completely and just leave him like this? So Raziel has good cause to be angry, that's for sure. He's not gonna just mindlessly, blindly accept what this giant thing is saying to him anymore. Also, they have squids in Nosgoth, apparently. He should have told him. He should tell Mobius exactly what the Elder is and see what his reaction would have been. So that is the very first part of a Soul Reaver 2. As you can see, the story's getting pretty juicy already. We're getting a lot of setup for something epic to come. And we're seeing a lot more being revealed about the world, and we're seeing that our supposed guardian angel down there might not be all that he claims to be, because he's got one hell of a shady bastard in his employment. We're seeing that Kain may have added motivations for what he's doing, besides just being jealous and tormenting Raziel no matter what the older god tells him. And we're getting our first glimpse at what Nosgoth used to look like before it got all destroyed by Kain's empire. Supposedly, because again, now we have reason to doubt whether that's even the case so far. We don't know actually what is going on. And that's a feeling we're going to have throughout much of this game if you watch the playthrough and you follow the story. What exactly is going on here? Who are these people? Because they sure don't look like any we've ever seen before. So who are they? And did they build the pillars or not? And what is the Reaver doing in all these images? Like Raziel said, like a holy icon. So we're gonna find out all these things and more. And more importantly, who is the central figure there wielding the Reaver like a holy champion with that helmet there and the bracers and everything? Who is that person supposed to be? So that is our Soul Reaver 2 for now. We're gonna find out the answers to all that stuff eventually, but yeah, so far story is every bit as good as I remember. Gameplay is a bit rough. As I said, the focus here was not combat or exploration, it was storytelling. And then Defiance is gonna shift that a little bit. Over there the focus is combat and storytelling, so they shift the priorities a bit, but the focus is absolutely on the story and the world here. And for better or worse, it is still one of the most memorable stories on the PS2. So we're going to pick it up again in a couple days. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time on Soul Reaver 2 Remastered on the PS4. See you later, everyone.